My name is Mariana Sosa. I am 25 years old. I was born in Cuautla in Mexico. I was raised in Houston, and I've lived in Montreal for about 10 years. I am a Sagittarius who loves the summer. I don't like fruit-flavored teas. They're disgusting and they taste like armpit. I am a sister, a daughter, a feminist, a nerd, a believer in the importance of social justice. I am queer as fuck. Queer is such an amazing word. It was a slur, an insult, and it has been reclaimed by the people that it was used against. It was a knife that was used to hurt people that did not fit into these prefabricated molds that strangers believed that they should be shoved in. Now, with queer back in our hands, we use it to protect ourselves, to protect each other. I've never struggled with my sexuality. I've known since I was about 15 that I wasn't straight, and that has never caused me any grief. What I have struggled with is other people. As a queer person, there is this totally understandable desire to be ourselves and live a life that is authentic to ourselves, but doing that can be difficult when total strangers feel that they have a say in our lives. If I kiss a woman in the metro and catch someone looking at us, like looking at us sideways, that's frustrating. I'm trying to live my life, but that look can mean that the person might say or do something. That look means that I no longer feel safe to be me. It's that threat of violence, be it verbal or physical, that I've struggled with. What adds to my frustration is that I know that if I were to kiss a man, I wouldn't even have to think about it. I could just do it and not have to do all of these calculations and evaluations and decisions in just a few seconds. That's what I've struggled with. As a Mexican woman from a close-knit family, I have had to do a lot of work to help my family understand what queerness is and how to help them understand my version of it. It hasn't always been easy, but it was important for me that they understand how I experience the world. I think last year was one of the toughest years I've ever lived through. There wasn't one specific event that happened that set me off or caused me hardship. Everything just got to be too much. I had a lot of trauma that is a result of living with an abusive alcoholic, and I've never ever confronted those years of my life. The way that I was raised is that you keep going. No matter what happens, you just keep going, keep moving forward. I wasn't taught how to stop, how to deal with the things that I've lived through. I'd put all of these horrible things that happened and the shame, the guilt, the anger, and the sadness that I felt behind a wall. But I didn't realize that they had been bleeding through the walls and affected me in my present. The cracks got bigger and bigger, and everything came through in a flood that had been a long time coming. I was finally in a place where I could not only afford therapy, I was finally ready to get the help I needed. I've been seeing my therapist for about 2 months, and something that has kept coming back is forgiveness. I have to teach myself how to forgive myself, how to be kinder to myself, and that is one of the hardest things that I've ever tried to do. There's a lot of re-education and deprogramming that I have to do. I have to learn how to share my feelings, share my problems with others. I have to learn how to let myself feel things, like actually feel my emotions, and not just push forward all the time. It's hard, but I need to do it. I can't just keep surviving. I have to start living.
My name is Diane Dollison. I am a writer, feminist, Slytherin, and horror nerd, among many other things. I am Filipino-Canadian. My parents immigrated to Canada from the Philippines in the late 80s, and I was born and raised in Montreal. Looking back, there was definitely a lot expected of me as a kid. My childhood has always been pretty hard to talk about because it's something I feel I was forced out of very quickly. I survived abuse at a young age, and the trauma of it really shaped me growing up. I think that for the longest time, I equated being strong with staying silent and seeming unbreakable because that's what I was taught to do. I used to be unable to talk about what I was going through because doing that was seen as a weakness, which was then seen as a burden, and being seen as a burden shattered the image of the perfect daughter, sister, and student that I was struggling to preserve. I remember constantly feeling like I was an inch away from exploding or crumbling. I started writing to cope because I had all these confessions and no one to really confide in yet. I discovered that writing can be a really powerful pain reliever, a way for me to release all the emotions that I keep bottled up inside, and a way for me to express myself. I realized I wasn't straight when I was 12 because I fell in love with a girl. I wrote a poem about her and allowed her to read it. I don't think I was embarrassed as a girl loving another girl as much as I was embarrassed as a shy 12-year-old exposing my juvenile writing skills and vulnerable emotions to another person. It was scary and impulsive in retrospect, but it showed me that I could be vulnerable and strong at the same time, which was huge for me. For years, I didn't label myself, partly because I was already struggling with not knowing who I essentially was as a person, and partly because I didn't have the language to adequately identify my sexuality. A few years ago, I started calling myself pansexual, but I wasn't 100% comfortable with the word and kept it to myself most of the time. Today, I am comfortable with telling people that I identify as queer. I love the word queer because it is all-inclusive and means different things to different people. For me, queer is not just a word that describes my sexuality. Queer represents freedom, freedom to love whoever I love, and freedom to be who I am without being categorized and silenced. At 23 years old, I know there is still so much I have to learn. I'm still learning how to let go of the pain that I carry and how to be better to myself. Self-care is constant work, but I know that I don't have to do it alone anymore. I know that who I am today is a collective effort. I am still alive today because of the courage, support, friendship, and love that friends, family members, teachers, and even strangers have showed me over the years. I am still alive today because of the poets and the activists and the dreamers that have challenged what it means to be normal. I am still alive today because of the queer community that is allowing me to heal, to love, and to have a voice when I thought I had none at all.
My name is Jodie-Ann and I am a 21-year-old student studying social work. My mom died from cancer when I was a child, which was of course very difficult for me and my brother. After that, my stepmother and her children became involved in our lives, and we didn't have a good relationship with them at all. It was very traumatic for me, and it had an immense impact on my mental health, as it still does. However, I find strength in my identity as a queer Black woman, and I've really come to embrace it these past few years. I think that I always knew that I was gay. When I was a kid, I used to have my Barbies marry each other and have children. But whenever a family member entered the room, I would drop one Barbie and use my Ken doll instead. I knew it was wrong for two women to be together romantically, but in my mind, that was the only thing that made sense. I was just confused, trying to understand why it would make sense to me but not to anyone else. I was also having trouble with being a Black girl. I considered the girls at school to be prettier than me, as they had lighter skin and a softer hair texture. My hair was of course very kinky and short. I always felt ugly compared to my peers, and I remember I used to hide my hair under my hat for as long as I could before I had to take it off for class. I was very ashamed of my Blackness. It was especially difficult for me because my stepmom and my stepsister had long hair that was soft and curly and known as quote-unquote good hair. Because of this, I felt embarrassed of my hair and didn't have much guidance in terms of how to take care of it. In high school, I dated a girl and I was so happy and comfortable because dating women was really what I wanted. But I hid it from my friends and family. Only in Cégep did I come out to my friends, and then I strategically came out to my family right before moving out so I could make sure I would have a place to live. Surprisingly, when I came out to my dad, he was accepting and said that he would love me anyway. I appreciated this because he is Jamaican, which is a very homophobic culture. Little by little, he is getting more comfortable with my queerness, and he is becoming a great ally. Now, I try to surround myself with queer people, especially queer people of color, as that is where I feel the safest. I am in a relationship with an amazing woman, and I have a job doing outreach where I get to work with the community I care most about. I have a great roommate who is white but very woke and aware of the issues in the POC community. I am very grateful for the people in my life, and I consider myself to be very lucky. And honestly, every day, my main goal is to make my mother proud, wherever she is watching me.